Hello, everybody. My name is Kenna Stephen, and I'm a study abroad peer advisor here at the Office of International Education. Welcome to the first episode of our Study Abroad podcast. I'm hoping to call it the DU AbroadCast, but the name is in the works. For now, it's just the DU Abroad podcast. And we're happy to have our first interview today. Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Sarah Olson. I'm a senior here. I'm majoring in environmental science, and I'm minoring in Spanish, international relations, and GIS. And I'm originally from Sonoma County, California.
Nice. Thank you for being here, Sarah. So do you just want to introduce us to what program you went on?
Please. Yeah, so I went fall of 2024, my senior fall. I participated in the SIT Coastal Ecology and Natural Resource Management program. It's based in Zanzibar, which is right off the coast of Tanzania.
Cool. Yeah, and so SIT is kind of an experiential-based program, right? So what was
so there were, instead of going to class at a university, all of our learning came from doing things out in the field, going and collecting data, doing all these different things. We were based out of a study center. And so we didn't have like a traditional classroom setting, but we were engaging with the environment in different ways, both like ecologically and then also socially and through different activities that branched those topics.
Yeah, the Tanzania program, the SIT one, is always, we get a lot of questions about it, especially from all of the like environmental science, geography, ecology people, because the experiential aspect does seem so cool. And like I did an experiential program, and they are like pretty non-traditional, I feel like, compared to going to a university and having a study abroad experience that way. Would you say in all of the, trips and the experiences that you guys had, what was like a moment that really stuck out to you?
Oh, so many. One of the first ones we did that stuck out was we actually went swimming with dolphins right off the coast of the island, which was very cool because these dolphins are wild, right? This isn't like a management center or like a wildlife, whatever. Like these were dolphins that were hunting. Like it was like dawn had just broken and they were like wild animals. And it was really cool because you could actually, I didn't do it because wild animals scare me. But you could reach, like, we got close enough, you could reach out and touch them.
Dolphins are, like, scary, aren't they?
They're really
not?
Scary. They have, like, teeth and they're really strong. And but it was really cool because, at least growing up in California in particular, right, you always, I had such an exposure to, like, the dolphins and the sea creatures and the sea mammals and, like, the whole ocean life. And so to be able to kind of experience that in the dolphins' natural habitat, like it was really cool, and to see how they interact with each other and like they do communicate and they do, have all these bonds. And I'm getting really distracted by the dolphins.
No, they're really cool.
It's really, really cool. And then outside of the dolphins, we also went up to the northern part of the island. We got to feed rehabilitated sea turtles. This was
That's so cool.
It was really cool. They had green sea turtles and hawksbill, like this whole variety of sea turtles that, if when they were out in the wild, they would have been gone, right? Either injured or like just old age or like all that sort of stuff. And so this center takes them in and they have this pool and you can feed them like the lettuce and like stuff that they would normally eat. So it's not damaging to them in any way. That was really cool.
Yeah, that does sound really
And then they had a little bin with baby sea turtles. They're like this big.
That does sound so magical. The way people describe that program is so cool. I get like working here is impossible because I get so jealous of every program. I'm like, I wouldn't change my program for the world, but also, I wish I could do them all. Like that's so cool.
Well, and Zanzibar is so cool because you are on an island and so you're snorkeling all of the time. You're in the water all of the time. You're learning about the coastal environment all of the time. And so I had to buy snorkel gear that was on the packing list and I was like, I don't know. It's so worth the money. Like it was, I used it every day.
That's
almost
cool.
every day.
Well, plug if you like snorkeling and or baby sea turtles. Maybe consider SIT Tanzania. if you're watching on video, you probably already noticed, but there's this awesome art piece behind me on the whiteboard that one of our study abroad peer advisors, Corinne, did for the podcast. She's an incredible artist, and everybody should go follow her at Echoes of Culture on Instagram. I just wanted to take one moment to shout her out. And so your specific program was like a research-based program as well, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about what research did you end up doing?
Yeah. So, yes, a big hallmark of the SIT programs is that you have the opportunity to conduct independent research for 28 days at the end of the program. So you have, 2.5 months where you're learning about the culture you're in, the society, and then also like the academic, the coastal ecology. And then you actually get to apply that, which as an environmental science major, is so cool. I love the hands-on research. And so you spend 28 days, collecting data, and then you have about 2 weeks after that period ends, or in between when that period ends and when you go home to wrap everything up. And so it was hard for me to pick a topic because I just wanted to do so many things, but I ended up looking at how seagrass beds, so how dense seagrass beds and sparse seagrass beds, how they impact the crustacean and mollusk populations during high tide and low tide, and there's some variability with that. And it was really cool. My results were statistically significant.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And what's nice about SIT is if you decide, hey, this is something I want to publish, they support you in that process. And so I'm in the process of figuring out what a manuscript looks like for publication. Oh my gosh. It's actually a lot of work. Oh, a lot of work.
So believe that.
But it was really cool. I was partnered with actually another student here from DU Madeline USONIS. Okay. But not everyone was partnered. It depended on your project. And we stayed in a homestay together with this great family. And the dad of the family, his name's Isaka, he actually owns a tourism, he will take tourists out on kayaks, and you'll get to go through the mangroves, and there's a bird sanctuary right by where we were, and he was starting to implement some snorkeling options, and so he let us use the kayaks for free for my research, which was really cool. I got ripped because I was kayaking out I'm sure. Every day, twice a day, probably on average. It was crazy. But what's nice about SIT, and something I was a little nervous about, not knowing what I wanted to study when I went in for my research, is I had friends who, did coastal ecology projects, right? The crustaceans and a fish survey, or Madeline did a biogeochemical carbon cycling project, but there are also projects on pottery and the culture and societal side, or on the health, some health metrics on the island. And so just because it's a coastal ecology program doesn't mean that you can't bring in those outside interests that you have. It's very well supported. The staff and just everyone there, they really help you finalize not just the logistics, but just your confidence in the whole research process.
That's very cool. If you are listening to this and you think you would maybe be interested in a research-based program, we have a lot. SIT has programs all over the world. And it's always going to be that same experiential, sort of format where you can do that research project. And we're partnered with quite a few SIT programs, but the Tanzania ones are really popular. But then there's also MSID, which is similar. And then we have a couple other ones. We'll have to maybe get a list of those going, but anyways, just worth keeping in mind. I think there is something very rewarding about doing research
definitely
in another country. And you do learn a lot. And SIT is cool because, correct me if I'm wrong, but they do kind of walk you through how you ethically conduct research.
Yes, one of my courses was environmental ethics and methods in research, and how you, coming from the US, coming from the Western world, how you go into, a different region of the world, and how you ethically and responsibly kind of insert yourself into this dynamic that's already there. That's what's so nice about having it, obviously, at the end of the program, is that you are able to adjust to those different cultural norms before you just slam right into the academic research.
Yeah, well, that is something I wanted to talk to you about. We had kind of talked about it before filming, but sort of, what does it feel like to go into a region of the world that is very culturally different? You had mentioned that Tanzania is majority Muslim, right? Linguistically, is it most people speak?
Yeah,
Swahili?
so mainland Tanzania is, the coast is, the coast, you'll speak Swahili, and then the mainland, interior, is actually more English and more Christian in terms of language and religion. But then in Zanzibar, it's majority Muslim and it's majority Swahili speakers. And it's a lot. It's a huge adjustment. I'm from California, and then I came to school here in Colorado, so it was a lot to adjust to, but in a good way. There were no moments where I was like, this is too much. It was there's constant stimuli, but if you go into this program knowing that that's what it's going to be, it's okay, it's manageable. You do, for the first month and a half, you have pretty consistent daily Swahili lessons.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Because the alphabet is the same, it's the Roman alphabet, but the similar letters, but it's based off the Bantu languages. Okay. And so there's different verb tenses and different the structure is different. And so that was a lot. But what SIT does a very great job of bringing in, the language, my language instructor, Shwena, she's amazing. She helps you through everything. And by the time you leave, you're at least proficient, beginner proficient in Swahili, okay. If not, really cool. Advanced. And so, it's really cool to have this exposure to this language that it just, not only is it a new language, but it also, how you speak is based on how you see the world around you. And that's so definitely translated. That's apparent in the language, which is really cool. And then for the Muslim aspect, I knew going in that Zanzibar was mostly Muslim because I did a little bit of background research. And so that's part of what drew me to the program. I was I don't want to go to a place where I'll be familiar with the customs. I want to really challenge myself and see, what opportunities come out of it. And so, I was mostly prepared for that in the sense that you can be prepared for anything before, living there. But it was really cool. It was, part of SIT is you do, a homestay while you're in, when you first start. So we were based in Stonetown, and just having that hands-on and more personal approach or a perspective with just such a wide variety of languages and religions, that really kind of cemented there's a lot to see, there's a lot to do, there's a lot to experience, and there's so many people you can learn from, and there's different trains of thoughts and there's different perspectives, and they're all valid because they're all based on your experience. And so it was just a huge learning opportunity. And SIT and this program, they also do a really good job of balancing the different kind of exposure levels that you get. So you start the program, you're based on Unguja Island, which is the main island in the archipelago. And there's Stonetown, a major city, a World Heritage Site. So you have this hustle and bustle and the city, and there's restaurants, and there's, the bank, and, it's an urban area. Yeah. And then you spend about 8 days on Pemba Island, which is a smaller island. It's more rural. It's more kind of traditional. And so there, for example, we did have to wear headscarves as women. And it was on Unguja, you could get away with wearing the flowy linen pants. But on Pemba, it was a little bit more be respectful of, these people's, their beliefs and their customs and their lifestyles, and, wear the skirts. And then we also spent about a week and a half in Dar es Salaam on the mainland, which is the capital of Tanzania. Okay. And so that was very, it's urban, it's touristy, there's all sorts of different, nationalities and, cultures that kind of intermingle there. So that was the big urban, kind of thing. And so there's this whole balance between, you see kind of what a traditional rural Muslim community is like, you see what the large hustle bustle in the city is, where the government is, where they have universities, and everywhere in between. And so I think the different levels of exposure really, they were great. It was so cool to be able to piece these little things together that you learned about in the beginning. You're like, oh, okay, but like, I don't, and then it all comes together.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Like, I understand.
Did you feel like you left the country? I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have said that, study abroad is such a short period of time. In the scheme of things, most of us are there for maybe 5 months for the longer programs. Do you feel like you were sort of, kind of got the hang of things by the end in terms of adjusting to the culture? Or do you feel like that happened earlier on? Or
by the end, I think so. Definitely the weeks leading up to when we started our research experience, I was like, okay, I know where I'm going. I don't need to pull out Google Maps on my phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's all figured out. And then with the research period, I moved locations. And so I was kind of, I wasn't starting over because it was obviously still the same area, but I was with a new family and I was, I wasn't doing school and classroom stuff. I was doing independent research. But I think having felt so adjusted in the weeks leading up to it was incredibly helpful because I was like, okay, I've been here. Like, I know a little bit how to speak the language. I know how to communicate, right? I know how to, like, I have my expectations for the food. Like, I know what they're going to feed me for traditional Swahili food. Or, I know, like, during the prayer times, for example, like, I was able to adjust. And so then, therefore, I was able to adjust my schedule around that, which was incredibly helpful.
Yeah. Well, I wish we could talk about this forever because honestly, like, I do have so many questions. But I guess my last question would be, do you have advice, or if you had one piece of advice for students looking to study abroad, what would your advice be?
I think ultimately study abroad is a great experience, and there's something to be said for going to a place that you're familiar with. But I think the personal growth and the academic experiences and just the lifestyle you get to experience when you challenge yourself and when you go someplace that you want to go, it supersedes all expectations. And so I would say, if you're considering a program that is a little bit less popular, such as these Tanzania ones or the SIT ones, or, that is in a part of the world where, people don't necessarily flock to for visiting, it's so worth it. Just do it. You learn so much. You gain so much out of the experience. And there were 12 of us, there were 11 of us total in my program. And I can say, honestly, by the end, we were incredibly tight. We had very good friendships. And it really does. You are really able to bring that back with you, to your life here in the United States in a way that, I'm not sure I would have if I had gone to a different place.
Yes, that's so cool. Well, thank you so much for being my first interview, Sarah.
Anytime.
And yes, that concludes this episode and the first episode of the Do You AbroadCast / Do You Study Abroad podcast.